of my channels, but Michelle remains unsupportive and disapproving. One day, when I cautioned her about her extravagant spending, she shockingly took all sorts of my belongings from my room and threw them away in the trash. Can't you accept that no matter how earnestly I pleaded, my feelings didn't reach Michelle, who looked down on me for staying at home? Despite my attempts to explain my work and the earnings I generate from home, she remains unconvinced. Her lack of belief in the legitimacy of working from home has strained our relationship. I have been providing her with a fixed amount of money for living expenses every month, but she assumes I'm taking it out of my savings from when I was single. She refuses to believe that I am earning from home, even when I offer to show her all my earnings for the month. I work part-time 5 days a week. Some of my friends' husbands even say it's fine for them to be a full-time housewife. I'm really jealous, I explained to Michelle. However, her skepticism persists. Even if you show me, I'm sure it's some kind of trick, and even if it's true, there's no guarantee your income will continue. There are no bonuses if you're not a company employee, so quit this unstable job already, Michelle insisted. When I quit my job, I honestly shared my feelings with her, hoping for her support. However, she denied my work from the beginning, even after I resigned. I've been living off the income from video streaming, and despite my efforts to prove the legitimacy of my work, Michelle remains skeptical and unsupportive. Feeling unappreciated and hurt, I began to sense a falling out of love with her. Despite my dedication to both my in-laws and Michelle, it became apparent that she thought it was acceptable to treat me poorly. Faced with this realization, I decided it was time to leave the house immediately. My name is Jake Smith, and I will turn 43 this year. After graduating from college, I worked in sales at a local business until last year. Unfortunately, my parents passed away from illness when I was in my 30s, and now I live with my wife, Michelle. We don't have children, but we have been leading a fairly happy life together. However, recently, clouds have begun to gather over our life. I enjoy eating out and have been posting videos about it since I was single. Last year, I decided to quit my job and become a video content creator, earning money through affiliate marketing. I put effort into social media, and my channels have gained a decent number of subscribers on a video streaming site, allowing me to earn several times more than I did as a company employee. I only quit my job after ensuring that I could make a living from video creation. However, Michelle does not seem to appreciate or respect my work. Despite my explanations about the seriousness of my engagement in video creation and social media management, she views my decision to work from home as lazy and unacceptable. Therefore, I wonder why she denies my work but uses the money I earn. From her perspective, her part-time job at the grocery store is hard and requires brain work. I, too, am earnestly striving to make a living from video streaming through trial and error. Of course, it's not comparable, but I respect and acknowledge her work. I wanted her to understand mine in the same way. Why can't you believe in my work and me? I've been explaining so much. I've been giving you the same amount for living expenses as before. Isn't that proof enough that I'm earning from home? It's impossible to earn income from such game-like activities. Work means going to a company and earning a salary. What you're doing is just an extension of a hobby, Michelle asserted. Hearing Michelle's words, I was stunned and speechless. I felt like my efforts were being trampled on, and I couldn't think of anything else in my head. When I was a company employee, I gave most of my income to her for living expenses. Even now, after resigning, I give her the same amount. I was able to save enough money during my time as a company employee without feeling my income. After quitting my job and making a living from video streaming, my income increased several times, but I continued giving her the same amount for living expenses because I thought she would spend more if I gave her more. She never believed me when I said I was earning from video streaming. You better not take your job lightly. I really can't understand your spoiled way of thinking. No matter how much I pleaded, Michelle wouldn't budge, and I sighed in exhaustion. It's a waste of time and energy to fight such a meaningless battle. Our relationship continued to deteriorate. However, despite the worsening relationship, I felt something off about Michelle, who seemed oddly cheerful. My bad premonition came true when I found that my savings were decreasing rapidly, and the clothes Michelle wore seemed increasingly expensive. On top of that, she had clearly been going out more, using drinks with friends as an excuse. I instantly realized that Michelle was splurging our money. She probably thinks that I'm just taking out money from my savings and that I'll get a proper job once it's all gone. For now, I'm okay as long as I'm earning from my video streaming, but I'm shocked at how Michelle has changed. It's disheartening to see the money I'd worked hard for being spent so frivolously. But then, something even more disheartening happened one day. The doorbell rang, and there stood my in-laws. Sorry, Michelle's at her part-time job right now. No worries, she gave us the go-ahead. We've decided to move in with you starting next week. We came to measure the room for our big furniture. I was astounded by this sudden announcement of cohabitation. What? I haven't heard anything about this. What do you mean you're moving in? I protested in panic. However, it seemed Michelle had made this decision without consulting me, and my in-laws had already terminated their rental lease. That night, I confronted Michelle when she came home from her part-time job. I never agreed to live with your parents. How could you decide something so important on your own? Despite my raised voice, she was nonchalant. What's the big deal? You decided to quit your job on your own, right? So, I made this decision on my own too. Plus, my folks suggested moving in. They said it would be hard for us to manage household chores with both of us working. They're so considerate, unlike you. I wish I'd married someone like my dad, she remarked casually, walking back to her room. I sighed deeply. Who compares their husband to their parents like that? I had discussed quitting my job with her at length, but she hadn't listened and ended up saying, "Do whatever you want." Yet, in her mind, it seemed I had quit my job on my own accord. As a result, I had no choice and found myself forced to live with my in-laws. Jake, could you lend me some money? Michelle asked, but I just gave her some the other day. I'm not exactly rolling in dough here, I replied. My in-laws began asking me for money behind Michelle's back right after they moved in. It appeared they had gotten into gambling and needed more than their pension and savings could provide. Their offer to move in was probably a ploy to save on living expenses. Michelle thought they were concerned about our well-being, but it was clear they were after my money. With Michelle working part-time, she couldn't afford to give her parents any allowance, and she'd be shocked to see how much they had changed. That's how much she admired her father when he was still working and her mother who supported the family as a housewife. Wanting to avoid conflict, I found myself unable to refuse my in-laws' requests and frequently gave them money. Between my in-laws' leisure expenses and Michelle's splurging, my savings and video streaming income were slowly dwindling. The money I'd worked so hard to earn disappeared like water in others' hands. This reality was taking a mental toll on me. Reaching my limit, I decided to talk to Michelle before bringing up the money issue with my in-laws. Hey Michelle, don't you think you've been spending a bit too much lately? You're always going out for drinks, and you don't need to buy so many clothes and cosmetics just because I'm earning. I seized the opportunity to address this while her parents were out, but she just glared at me intensely. I braced myself instantly, but she didn't scold me. Instead, she headed to her room. I wondered what she was thinking, but the next day it all became clear. She'd had taken all my belongings from my room and thrown them in the trash. Hey, what are you doing? Stop it. I raised my voice in shock, and she looked at me in the eye and said, I'm just taking out the trash. Parasites should leave the house. I couldn't understand what she was saying at first. If anyone was acting like a parasite, it was her and her parents. Anger surged within me. Parasites. I'm the one earning the money we live on, right? Don't act all high and mighty over your petty earnings. You never work. Plus, this house was paid for by my parents. You're just a stranger living here. A parasite. So please, just leave. My parents are living with us now, so we don't need you. Michelle gestured dismissively at me, as if shooing away a stray cat. Indeed, my in-laws had helped financially when we built the house. That's why I felt obligated to give them money. I thought I was doing my best for my in-laws and Michelle, but it seems Michelle considered me someone she could treat poorly. When I realized this, I felt myself falling out of love with her. Understood, I said. When I said this, she had a satisfied look on her face, but I didn't pay her any mind. Instead, I gathered the few belongings left in my room and left the house immediately. I decided to sell unnecessary items and live in a hotel for a while. I continued my work from the hotel, preparing for what was next. A few weeks after leaving the house, I was awakened by a call from Michelle. She sounded incredibly frantic, trying to tell me something urgently. Michelle, slow down. I can't understand what you're saying, I said, rubbing my sleepy eyes. She spoke slower than before, but was still panicked. Where are you? You took money out of the living expenses account, didn't you? And now my parents are asking me for loans. What's going on? I had a feeling this would happen. My father-in-law had gotten heavily into gambling, and it was going insane. I figured they'd turn to Michelle for money once they knew they couldn't get any from me. I told her the truth in a cold voice. I'm not living with you anymore, so of course, I'd withdraw money from the account. And about your parents, they often asked me for money. Maybe now, they want it from you since I'm not there. She was shocked. I had no idea. I thought they were living on their savings and pension. They even said they still had savings. Your parents probably had some savings, but I guess it's not much left since they're into gambling, I said. Michelle gasped in shock over the phone. What? Gambling? But they're living with us to help with our expenses. When I told her about her parents' gambling addiction, her voice cracked, and she was shocked. Well, maybe they moved in with us thinking they could get us to support them. I continued, sharing all my pent-up feelings. I couldn't refuse them because of the debt I owed them for helping us build the house. It started at some point. They got bold and began asking me for money for gambling. That's when I finished telling her everything about the money I had given to my in-laws. Michelle was at a loss for words. She was clearly shocked by the gap between her idealized parents and their current state. She seemed to have wanted to be a stay-at-home wife, and her outdated values were clear from how she yelled at me for quitting my job. In fact, when we decided to marry, she had said she wanted to be a housewife, but I wanted her to work whatever she could, so I had asked her to at least work part-time. Maybe she was splurging as a way of relieving stress or getting back at me for not letting her be a full-time housewife. What should I do? I don't have money to give to my parents, and you haven't transferred this month's living expenses yet. Do it quickly. I don't have enough money for my expenses, she said. I was astounded that even now, she was only worried about her own spending money. It seemed like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, depending on others for money. I could have comforted her, but I felt no love for her anymore and said coldly, "Why should I pay for your family's living expenses? We're practically strangers now, right? No need to pay for a stranger's living expenses." After I said this, she awkwardly muttered an apology. Well, that was my mistake. We're family, so come back. I'll forgive you. Let's live together happily again, were her convenient words, but they disgusted me. Sorry, but I'm not planning to be your cash cow anymore. Why don't you work full-time and support your parents? I said strongly, almost as a payback. That finally made her angry, and she snapped back, "That's impossible. I'm a woman after all." Just come back, Jake. What's that? You don't have a heart to reflect, do you? Michelle seemed quite upset by my words, but it was already too late. I was appalled by her attitude of still asking for money. I made it clear I'm tired of being manipulated by you and your parents. Let's get a divorce. I knew she was calling about money, which is why I didn't want to answer in the first place, but she showed no signs of giving up. Part of me held a sliver of hope that Michelle might have had a change of heart. I was strongly attracted to her bright and carefree nature. I couldn't bring myself to truly dislike her. Don't say such sad things. We're a married couple, aren't we? I'm in trouble because our savings are almost gone. It's not zero yet, but it's getting dangerously low. Please, I just want you to transfer some money for now, she pleaded. However, as expected, all Michelle talked about was money. She was probably trying to keep her cash cow from escaping, so she's putting up with it. Just hearing her beg over the phone made me feel sad. It seems she squandered the savings again. I was about to let out a deep sigh, but held it back and cornered her with my words. Why don't you ask your affair partner for financial help? What? How did you? She gasped in surprise. Probably, she was thinking I hadn't discovered her affair. She'd have been involved with a young man from her part-time job, frequently meeting him alone under the guise of going out for drinks. I had suspected her behavior and hired a private detective agency, uncovering her infidelity. An affair? That's an exaggeration. We were just friendly, that's all, right? I only care about you. She stammered at first, but quickly switched to a more cheerful tone, trying to appease me. I have all the evidence. I'll make sure you pay compensation. A lawyer will be contacting you soon, so discuss it with them. Compensation? I can't pay that. Please, call it off. How can someone be so shameless, brazen? I firmly declined her request. I told you to discuss it with the lawyer. I've moved overseas and don't plan to return to the States for a while. I don't intend to see you or transfer any money anymore. We're strangers now. I have no money to give you. Don't ever contact me again, I declared, ending the call and blocking Michelle and my in-laws' numbers. As long as I was involved with them, my hard-earned money would keep disappearing. Finally, I sent Michelle the divorce papers, got a lawyer, and successfully divorced. As for her, it seems she's now living a busy life, juggling multiple part-time jobs while supporting her changed parents. Her life, having to support the parents she once respected, is bound to be miserable. It's ironic that Michelle, who was so fixated on money, is now tormented by it. As for me, I'm enjoying my bachelor life in a luxurious overseas home. I'm sharing my life abroad on my video streaming channel, which is surprisingly popular with my subscribers skyrocketing. Free from the shackles of Michelle and my in-laws, I feel an incredible sense of liberation. In the past, I might have restrained myself, worried about appearances, but now I live a fulfilling life, doing what I want and speaking my mind. I'm not set on staying single forever. If I ever marry again, I prefer a woman who isn't obsessed with money. For now, though, I'm savoring this freedom, dedicating myself to my work each day.